in that psycho-cybernetics book, it says life is like a self-correcting missile. We go off course and then we come back and we go off course this way and then we course correct. And I think that's what it's all about. So it's never about failure. It's always about beta testing. And the beta test, we learned this is a bad idea.
This is Therapist Clubhouse, a podcast for private practice entrepreneurs. I'm Annie Schusler. This week, I'm talking to Casey Truffo, a private practice entrepreneur in Orange County, California, who also runs a global business. Listen as we dive into what it takes to create a group practice and how to know whether it's right for you. You're going to love hearing Casey talk about creating a bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. And that goes for everyone, whether you're interested in running a group practice or not. So welcome, Casey. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited to be here, Annie. You are such an amazing spirit. Thanks for doing everything you do for us. It's just phenomenal what you've brought to this platform and to all of us. So thank you for that.
Oh my God, that's really incredible to hear you say. You know that I'm a geeking out fangirl of yours.
Oh.
And I worked with you a number of years ago, like in 2014.
Yes.
You helped me one-on-one with opening up a therapy center, and that was amazing. But I had been following you, and back like 10 years or more ago, I did a few of your programs. And yeah, you totally changed my life. And I know how many people's lives you've changed, or I know a lot of the people's lives who you've changed.
That's so sweet.
Well, it's just so true. And you created this idea and this brand of Be a Wealthy Therapist that even just the name has really opened up people's brain heads, you know. It's really given people a new way to think about things, and I'm sure sometimes even pissed people off. But
more than sometimes.
Yeah.
When I first started, I think I started we got the website in 2004, I think. And the idea of being wealthy therapist was horrible. And we would have people walk by. I was doing a table at camps, and people were walking by our booth, and they go, "Oh, like alcoholism. Oh, that's important. Look at our Be a Wealthy Therapist." And then they would run past that, and then they run to the next one. "Oh, eating disorders. Yeah, that's tough." You know. And it's like they were so interested in those two things, and they just kept walking by us. And finally, one lady says, "Wealthy therapist, isn't that an oxymoron?" And my husband says, maybe to some it is. It's just like, we're before our time. So then I actually changed it. I changed wealthy therapist to something else. And we didn't get any response. So I went back to being true to who you are, being authentic. And here we are.
Oh, yeah. What was the name you changed it to?
I think we changed it to Build Your Freedom Practice or something like that.
But it needed to be bold. Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about one thing that you do. You have a therapy center yourself in Orange County for how many years now?
It's pretty new. I think we started in 2013. So it's not, I had closed my counseling practice, and I was just running Be a Wealthy Therapist for many years. And then I started coaching people who had group practices, and I started looking at their numbers, and I started thinking about the business model. And I thought, So right before Obamacare came in, I said to my husband, I'm thinking this is what we should do. And so we started in North Orange County with just me and one other therapist. And then after a while, we moved to South Orange County. And we're just getting ready to open our second office down there, second location. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And I think you have 4 therapists in your center right now.
Right now we have 4. We're on the prowl to hire 2 more. So we're excited. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm kind of jumping ahead with this question, but I'm really super curious. When you're looking at hiring your next 2 people, what are you thinking about?
I'm thinking about all the mistakes I made before. Annie, I went through a period where, we did I have employees now, which is another topic if you ever wanted to go there, but I had contractors for a really long time. And I went through my 1099s for last year, and I think I had 7 people I'd let go. And it was just it was like a trip through Casey's bad hiring decisions. So I think that's what I've come down to. What I want are two things: somebody that I would want to sit in the room with for an hour, and somebody who has enough couples or system skills to be able to handle high conflict, high net worth, and high egos for our couples to come in. We have a lot of people that are in here that have CEO type jobs, or musicians or actors. And so they feel very accomplished in their business life, and their relationships are falling apart. And so they want their therapist not to be somebody who's too soft, too indirect, but yet be aware that they have this big accomplishment over here. So it's a very tender kind of thing. And I need somebody who's going to do, pretty, I don't want to say advanced, but really make the client feel that we're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. The I statements and day night isn't going to be the, the thing that keeps these people.
Yeah. So it's kind of like they need to know, part of it, what I hear you saying is like, they need to know someone is there topping them, like who can take charge, like not be intimidated by them.
Exactly. And somebody who's maybe as accomplished in their business life as the client is. If they feel that, even if it's not true, if they feel that, then the client's going to stay. But so that's what I'm looking for right now. And I think I've made a lot of mistakes in the past. I hired people who already had private practices. And then really, why would they want to work in mine? I hired people that I knew on the interview, Annie. I just knew this is a bad hire, but I was so hungry because the phone was ringing.
You wanted it to be the right fit. Yeah.
I did.
I remember one of the gems that you said to me when I was opening my center, which I don't have anymore. Like I ended up deciding that it wasn't for me as much as other stuff I was doing. But
sure,
it was great and it was profitable. A lot thanks to you. But anyway, I'm digressing. So I remember one of the gems that you said to me was, I was saying, how do I make sure I'm not going to make any mistakes? I want to work with you so that I don't make any mistakes. And you're like, well, let's get that out of the way right now. You're going to make mistakes and you're going to notice when you do. And like, that's how you're going to succeed. And I was like,
absolutely.
That was such a relief.
See, I think that's the if we get into that perfectionistic, and I should have listened. You should have coached me back this last year. I stopped hiring because I got so nervous of making a hiring mistake, and so I kept saying, growth is fine where it is. It doesn't matter that we're not growing. But it was all about my fear of hiring the wrong person. So once I decided, okay, and I hired one more, and then she started her own practice kind of behind my back. And it's like, okay, that was a mistake. Now we're going to just dive even deeper into that question on the interview. But I didn't beat myself up for it because I knew I had to, what I just told you.
Yeah, what you told me those years ago. Absolutely. Yeah, there's no other way to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Life and business is a beta test. Okay. Everything you're doing is a beta test, and I'm all about the beta.
Will you say more about that, Casey? Like how that works as in life and business as kind of a mantra?
Yeah. So in terms of business, we're opening up a new location. Do I know if that's going to work? I have no idea. We're getting ready. There's certain marketing activities that I've said forever will not work. I don't want to say on this recording just because in a month I might change my mind. And if somebody's listening to this in a month, but now I'm beta testing that big time. I'm hiring big time experts to help me with some of the things that I said would absolutely never work, spending some few $1,000s on it because I want to test it. And if it doesn't work, then okay, now I can for sure say, as of right now, I know this doesn't work. I hired the best people I could. But if it does, then hey, we learned something new. In life, it's about the beta. We're in the process of listing our home and selling it. And it's like, do you want to list it for a quick sale, or do you want to list it, at a higher price and wait it out? That's all beta. You don't know. I'm an old computer programmer. And in computer programming, there was this thing called the beta test. The alpha test was where we wrote programs and then we tested it among ourselves, among the programmers. And then the beta test was where we got users that we liked and trusted us and were nice to us to test it and tell us their honest opinion and find the bugs in it. That was the beta test. And then once we fixed those things, then it went live. But, I think life is, in that psycho-cybernetics book, it says life is like a self-correcting missile. We go off course and then we come back and we go off course this way and then we course correct. And I think that's what it's all about. So it's never about failure. It's always about beta testing. And the beta test, we learned this is a bad idea. There's times when when I first started coaching, I offered something called the membership program. And it was like a gym membership, coaching gym. And you could get unlimited time with me for, $5 a month or something. And people would book an online calendar. This was 2006. So this was a long time ago. And I found an online calendar, which is a big deal. And people could get on and make appointments online. And people would book. I booked 14 people into this membership. 7 would book every day for their own hour. So 7 people, my unlimited, they never could get in. And so they accused me of lying to them. I had to give back money. But bottom line was, that was a giant beta test that I have never, ever done again. But, who would have known? So I'm trying this new thing with some coaching where it's unlimited, but there's a whole lot of caveats. Okay, it's unlimited as long as you've done your homework, as long as you send this to me, as long as blah, blah, blah. And now it's working a lot better.
Ooh, I love that. You have to have done your homework. So you're not asking me the same questions I just told you. Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm doing a beta right now. That's really fun. And this one's about like making some kind of offer that you're scaling. And so it could be a workshop, it can be a group, but it's just taking that first step. And it's very meta because everyone in the beta is doing a beta. So
yeah, that's very cool.
And so then I get to say, okay, so let's look at my beta. How is this working?
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
So, all right, there's one thing there's a lot of things I'm really curious about. One thing is, who do you think is a good candidate for running a center? And who do you think should really maybe not think about it?
Yeah. So number one, you have to like managing people. Okay. I think that, and you have to be okay being the boss. Too many group practice owners that I work with, they were a clinician, they filled up, they decided to become a group practice just because they were full and tired of referring out. But they didn't have this vision of what they wanted the center to be, the group practice to be. And I think that's critical. What is your vision? And then you hire people for your culture and your vision. And then are you willing to manage them? The other thing is that being the manager, the CEO of a group practice, you're really doing a bunch of roles. So you may still be doing clinician. You're doing marketing. You're doing operations. You're doing finance. You're the visionary, and you're also doing mentoring. And so if you're trying to see 30 clients a week and do all these other things, what I find is that most practice owners resent their clinicians because their clinicians are working for them because they don't want to run their own private practice. So they need support. They need mentoring. They need help. And I know that I had a group practice owner that she would hire a new clinician, and then she would not be there the first night when the clinician was there. She'd be available on text, and the new clinician would text her a question. And then the therapist, the practice owner at home would get mad because it was a silly question. And I'm thinking, so you have to be able to manage people. You also have to want to look at your financial reports and look at your numbers, because your numbers are going to guide a lot of the decisions. And so if people don't want to look at the numbers, that's the thing that I find amazing. We run groups for people who have group practices, and it's fascinating. One of our benefits is a profit and loss review. My husband's a 35-year accountant, so we go through those with people. And for many people, it's the first time they've ever really done it. Because if you think about it, revenue, everybody talks about revenue, how much revenue did we make? But it's really how much profit, how much did you keep at the end of the day? One of my favorite stories is when one year before I was looking at my numbers, my husband said, okay, your profit this year was $1,000. Like, and that was paying myself, right? That was my pay for the whole year. And I said, is that before or after taxes? And he says, honey, when you make $1,000, you don't pay taxes. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to be so poor. I don't pay taxes. I mean, that sounds like food stamp people. Not that there's anything wrong against food stamp people, but I didn't want to be a food stamp business owner. You know, I was trying to do this to better the world and give myself a lifestyle. So it was that day that I said, okay, I better start looking at these profit and loss. And now we do that. And so one of the big things that when we work with people is, in the profit and loss review, is we look at expenses versus income. We look at how much are you paying the therapist. One of the biggest mistakes that most group practice owners make, center owners make, is they overpay their therapist, because the way that they think about it is, okay, Annie, here I am full. So I'm already paying my operating expenses. So if I bring somebody else in, that's just extra. So I'll pay them 60, 65, 70%. Some I've even heard up to 80 or 90. But the thing is the goal, number one goal, if you're really doing this as a center owner, is to set it up so that your clinicians, the people working in your practice, end up, the profit that you're making off of them pays for your operating expenses. That's number one goal. The number two goal is whatever you're earning off of them pays for your salary, your lifestyle goals, so that if you don't want to see clients, you don't have to. So that's the way that we're working toward a profitable business. And a lot of people don't do that. They just think, oh, you know, I made $10, $20 off of this associate clinician, in my practice. And therefore, yay, that's $20 I didn't have before. But the thing is, you're still tied to the button chair hours. Because if you stop working, if your associate clinicians don't bring in enough to pay for your operating expenses, you still have to do it. So that was a long answer to your question.
No, I'm mesmerized, because it also, if we're thinking of it that way, like, oh, this is extra money I wouldn't have had, then it isn't worth it if you're looking at it that way, because it's a lot of work to start a center. Yeah. It's a lot of work to, find the right people and manage folks and all of that. So if you're thinking of it that way, there's probably easier ways to make that amount of money.
Right.
Yeah.
The other answer to that question is who should do it is people that like marketing and have been successful at it. Because the people that come in, a lot of center owners, in my mind, make the mistake of bringing in entrepreneurial people and tell them to go do their own practice or go get their own clients. But if I'm an entrepreneurial person working for you and I'm getting my own clients, why would I want to pay you any part of that, right? Why don't I just go get 100% for myself? So, we like to bring in people who are really good therapists, really good at retention, really engaging people, but people who get it, that being in a practice where they can reasonably set their own hours, and we do all the marketing, all the billing, all the admin, all the finance for them. We pay space rental, all that kind of stuff they don't have to do. They feel really happy about that. But when you expect your clinicians to go get clients, that's where I think every time I've seen people do that, or most times, the person ends up leaving and taking 20 clients with them.
What do you think about this model that I see a lot that's really different than the model we're talking about, where they're hiring people as contractors who are private practice clinicians already, who have their own practices, and then they're just kind of adding more and more people, but there is no building, there is no, pretty much all they're providing to those folks is referrals. And I guess I'll give my bias about this, and maybe it's partly from working with you. My bias about it is that if I was one of those people, I would rather the phone ring for one of my own clients than a client I'm getting through this center. So that's what made me not interested in that model. But what are yours?
Yeah, I have one colleague who does this, and she has a big brand, right? She has a training program of training how to counsel in a certain way. And so, if I were, it's not Gottman, but let's just say I was a Gottman and I could get clients from Gottman. I go to their trainings, I get certified. I then somehow pay for referrals because they have the Gottman referral network. But, that might be okay if I'm tagging on to somebody's brand, right? So, and then I still own the client, I manage the client and all that. I think that's good for private practice owners who are looking for an easier way to market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I, as a center owner, don't have a brand like that, number one. And I'm not known all over the world for doing some kind of therapy. And then number two, I'm way too controlling for my people. Like if I gave a referral to somebody, I want to be in touch with it. I want to know how you're doing. I want to make sure that the client is being addressed. And if you're not doing well, I want to figure out what to do with the client.
Yeah, right. And you don't have that if you're referring to people all over the place. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then,
I'm thinking about, like, I know you've kind of already answered this, but who's not a good candidate? And one thing I've noticed is that, I think you pretty much already said this, but that thing of this looks like a good financial idea, and that's kind of it. I feel like I keep seeing folks with just that in mind, not making it work.
Yeah. Again, you have to want to manage people. You have to want to be the boss. You have to be able to know how to create culture. You have to want to be a leader.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have to be good at systems. So people that are super disorganized, I have a colleague who's a client who's a very, very sweet therapist, and she is not technical. So she has no EHR. She has no online calendar, and she's got 9 therapists out there she's trying to book for. She had a system where when people would call in for a session, the system was an answering service took the message. They went and got to the billing department who checked benefit. This could take a day. That information got back to her, the practice owner. She looked at it, decided which of her therapists might work, called the client. Now we're about 3 days in. Called the client, talked to the client, then told the client, the therapist will be calling you. Never did follow-ups to find out if the therapist ever did or not.
Oh, no.
So minimum, it was something like 3 calls in order to get over about a week time. And I tried to get her onto electronic health records. She couldn't do that. So we ended up with still a paper system, but one person answering the phone who had like a calendar of times that therapists gave them so that she could at least book on that first call. Yeah. And their conversion went from 29 to 70% just with that one.
Yeah.
system.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And if you translate that, if an average client say is worth $2,000, you're now talking about boatloads of money. But so back to the who shouldn't do it. If you don't have systems or you're not good at systems, then you need to get somebody who could create a good system for you, because it's in the systems that the efficiencies are and where the money is.
Awesome. And I think people listening are probably thinking, this is true for my individual therapy practice too. And if you're thinking that,
absolutely,
I think you're right. You're getting the Casey magic.
Again, we need to, the book. In fact, Annie, if you want, I can send you a link to the digital copy of the From Clinician to Confident CEO book. You can give people that download if they want that through your site.
Amazing.
Yeah. But one of the things that I talk about in that book is that we need to be the CEO. When I wrote the first book, Be a Wealthy Therapist, it was all about, because that was back in the day. I think the first printing was in 2007. And that was back in the day when therapists didn't want to charge and scared of marketing. And now we're past that, especially the newer generation coming through. I just bless you. I love you. You guys are like, well, I want to make a buck, so I loved it. But now we need to look at it as you're not a clinician who has a business. You're a business owner whose business is psychotherapy. And as that, you have all of these hats that we talked about. What is the vision? Where's your operations manual? If therapists who have solo practices could just create an operations manual, their life would be so much easier. Same thing. I was on a teleconference, and it had a chat feature. And I said, the person who answers the phone first gets a client. So that's the number one system, is getting your phone answered, however you decide to do that. But try to get that answer, because the first person that talks to the client gets the client. And somebody wrote in the chat, the other speaker said, don't answer your phone because you will appear not busy enough. And I thought I misread that. Like, oh, somebody must have misunderstood that. You're trying to talk and the chat's going down the side. Yeah. And I'm thinking, that's wrong. And she misread that or misunderstood that. And then the gal who was the host of the conference wrote, yes, what I do is average her advice and Casey's and try to call back within 12 hours. And I'm thinking, yep. So then I got this video that I did that showed if you miss like 10 calls a week, and with an average client is worth so much to you, and that was just for 10 months of the year, something like $75,000 you lost by not getting to that phone. And I don't know about you, but when I need a plumber, this morning I was calling movers. I'm calling the first person that answers the phone. You know, I'm not going to just sit around and go, okay, man, that plumber must be really busy. Right. I think he must be great. So I think I'll wait.
Yeah. It feels like it's not good mind mapping or not good empathy for us to be thinking they're looking at how busy we are. Like they want to see that we don't have any spaces in our schedules and that we don't have time to answer the phone. It's like when you're looking for help, is that really what you're thinking about?
Yeah, I've never called. Yeah, I mean, it's like a narcissistic kind of thing, right? Yeah. It's like, I need to appear busy so that somebody, wow, she must be really good, you know, or he must be really good.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say, Annie, is you can start a group practice if you have like maybe, let's say you decide you might want to try this.
Yeah.
If you have 5 available hours a week, 5 to 10 in your office not being used, and you have more calls than you are getting. Now, so the way that you do this is keep a call record and make sure that you're getting at least 10 extra calls a month that you would give to an associate. And I don't mean like if you specialize in couples, oh, there was a child therapy call and there was an elder therapy, you know, it's like it's similar to what you do or complementary. You know, if you got 10 calls for child therapy, then it might be great to have a child therapist in it. If you get 1, I wouldn't do that, but keep a record of that. And once you know on regular basis, you're getting at least 10 calls a month that you think you could give to somebody. If you have, say, you know, a 30% conversion rate, that you could give them at least 3 clients, you know, so that would be the way to get started, and then decide if you like it.
Yes. And then beta. Yeah.
Yeah. Beta. And then you and I are both in California.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of rules and laws now versus contractors versus employees that are changing. I created a whole course with my friend Joe Bevanese on this, and we both were contractors, only go contractors. You know, 6 months ago, I decided to go employees because in California, they're cracking down a lot on what's the difference between a contractor and employee. So just FYI.
Very cool. That's so important.
Yeah.
That's really important.
So if you have questions about that and you're starting a practice, reach out to a labor law attorney for that so that you know more about what works. And then reach out to somebody who, you know, Annie, me, Joe, somebody who might know about what the differences are between those two, and make sure that you do this right. I've got 2 clients right now that are being sued by EDD, the Department of whatever, that says that they misclassified people and they're having to pay payroll taxes and penalties. So, yeah.
Painful.
Yeah, right.
Painful.
Yeah.
So will you tell us, if this isn't too personal, what is a week in your life like?
Yeah, right now. So in the mornings, I get up somewhere around 4:30 and go to a 5 a.m. workout class. There's a gym nearby called Orange Theory Fitness, which I'm just addicted to. The reason I like it is because there's a heart rate monitor board and you're watching where you are on the board. So I could be I'm 65, I could be next to a 20-year-old, and as long as we're in the same heart rate zone, it's going well. So I love that.
Mm.
And then, so that's 5 to 6, come home and then have breakfast. And then my husband and I go for a 1 or 2 mile walk usually, and then sort of talk about the day. I come back, I start either coaching or doing something for my center from work is about 8:30 to 11. I have lunch early because I got up early. And then afternoon is back to work. And then after I usually close down about 4 or 5, spend some time with my kittens. And then we cook dinner, watch a little TV and go to bed. So that's our daily thing. And then weekly, what I try to do is take different days and therefore different things. So Tuesday is a center day. Okay. Sunday is a center day. I work on Sundays. And then Wednesday is a day, we're old, so we go to a lot of doctor's appointments. So Wednesday seems to be our doctor appointment day. And if it's not doctor's appointment day, then it's some project related day.
Mm-hmm.
Mondays and Thursdays, I do my coaching calls for Be a Wealthy Therapist. And then now, since we're opening up the Mission Viejo office and I don't have a therapist yet, there's probability I'm going to have to do some hours there. So I'm trying to fit that in somewhere. And in the midst, like I said, we're selling our home, and every time we have a show and we have to pack up the cats, go out. So these last couple of weeks, the workouts haven't been quite as intense. But and then once a month, because my dad is 92 and he is failing cognitively. So he lives in Las Vegas. So once a month I go visit him, and I think he still remembers me. So, every time he remembers me. The last time I came, he didn't call me by name, but he looks at me and he goes, "You're here." But then he said that to a caregiver a minute later. So I don't know. But, and then what we do there is we just look at old pictures, and he remembers the people from the old pictures. So we have fun with my sister. And so that's pretty much what a week is like. I try to, from a productivity standpoint, every day, look at what is the number one thing I need to get done today. And if I get that thing done, then I earn the right. This is from the book, The One Thing. Then I earn the right to do the second thing. And so anytime that I don't do that, which I'll be honest, it's common. Anytime that I don't do the number one thing, my whole day is sort of like messed up.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I think of is I am always focusing on today revenue and tomorrow revenue. I can't sacrifice one for the other. So it's like today revenue or tomorrow revenue. So one of the things in our center we've been playing around with was doing phone consultations before people come in. This is another beta, because out of 713 clients, 230 of them came one time. And I think that's because we had an online calendar and we didn't do any pre-screening. And then these people came in and they really weren't right for the practice. So we did them a disservice, and then they sucked up time on our calendar. So it didn't work out well. So now I'm saying, okay, how can I solve that problem? Could I do free intake consultations first to make sure they're right for us? So that's what I'm trying to do now, which then means all the way through the week now, because I can't just have a day for the center. Now I've got to put those in somewhere. And then there's a part of me that's thinking, I don't even want to talk to them on the phone, because most of the time when I talk to them on the phone, their partner hasn't agreed to come in. So I want to do this consultation with them and their partner. And so it's not that I don't want to talk to them on the phone. It's just I don't want to get both of them on the call at the same time. So those are the kinds of things that my brain works on. And then every once in a while I think, oh, this would be a good idea for a new business. And then I have to stop myself.
Oh my God. I love how your brain works. That's so helpful. It's so helpful to just hear like how you go through your life and get so much done and enjoy it. And the
other thing that's really important to me is I surround myself. That old saying, you are like the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
I work really hard at, I have 2 different business coaches because they help in different things. I hang out with people who actually are running $2 million group practices a year, in revenue, just because I'm not yet. And so when I listen to them and they say, oh, we celebrated 5 years ago when we had 100 intakes in 1 month. And I'm like, ooh. And then I'm thinking, yeah, that's because my limiting belief is that how would I ever get 100 intakes in 1 month? It's like, oh, half that then should be no problem. And so really working on my belief systems and hanging out with people that have already done what I want to do helps that, because it's like you can't say, oh, it could never happen. Well, here's 5 people that have between $1 million and $2 million revenue group practices. So,
yeah, wow, so much more effective than doing an affirmation or something like that.
And I think affirmations help too. I think both are true. Yeah. I think that we have to. One of the problems I have, this is personal, but one of the problems I have with a lot of affirmations is that we don't believe it. Okay, like, yeah, I am wealthy. But I think that if we can sit down and come up with something, I call it a bridge belief, something that we could believe, and then start there and then see it, and it's all day long seeing it. I'm seeing that Mission Viejo office with a great therapist, and we just got one little executive suite because I didn't want to go get a huge new space because I'm a little risk averse. But now I'm thinking, oh, my vision is like, oh, I have a problem because I have more people wanting space than that office will, accommodate. And that's such a great problem to have. Now I have to get a bigger office. So that becomes like my thinking. But if I just thought every day, oh, we're going to fill up Mission Viejo, I don't think that would work for me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So it's visioning it and then hanging out with people that, like, my business coach caught me. Every day I teach, Annie, every day I teach. When somebody says I can't afford it, it's never about the money. Yes. It's always about the fact that you haven't joined with them. Maybe 3%, the barista who lost her job, you know what I mean? But other than that, it's not about the money. So I'm talking to my business coach and I said, yeah, we got 16 calls over this time period and we booked 3 of them. She says, what happened to the others? I said, oh, they couldn't afford it. And I just said, I was like a throwaway. She goes, really? And I said, well, they were, they didn't make a lot of money. She goes, you're saving relationships. How much does a divorce cost? How much do two separate, abodes cost? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. But I said, the studies show only 40% of people that come out of couples counseling stay together, and 60% get divorced. And yeah, she goes, you're giving them a 40% better chance than they have now. And, and if maybe you're above the average. And I'm like, yeah. She says, you come up with 100 reasons why people ought to be able to come to you. And I'm like, yeah. And so I was all excited. And then that was what made me, not hire a recent person, because I realized I'm not sure that person could do the same level of couples work, not because she wasn't nice, just not as experienced as all my other people. And so I chose not to hire her. So it was just interesting the way that all the dots kind of connect and how our belief systems, because what would have happened is if I'm still believing like, oh, we'll save 10 to 20% of them, big deal, then I'm going to hire somebody that's in that like range. And then I'm going to get mad at them because the people aren't staying, and we'll be back to that. So it just all goes together. I'm rambling, but I hope you.
Oh, I'm loving it. And you're creating that bridge that you were talking about I think it's going to blow some people's mind that you have a coach even.
Oh my God. I have 2 of them.
Yeah.
Well, 2.5, because one of my best friends is way more successful than me. So I'm always reaching out to him going, do you think this is true? Can we try this? So yeah, no, every time I did not have a coach, my growth was stagnant or went down.
Yeah.
So since I think 2000, maybe, I've had coaches.
I love that. Yeah. Casey, what is the very best place for people to find you? And throw compliments at you.
Yeah. Oh, bless your heart. It's so funny. I am so shy. It's like, I can be on stage. I can do that. But in a room full of people, one time I went to a camp meeting, I was a speaker, and the lady goes, have you ever heard this speaker before? She comes up to me and I'm like, yeah, I've heard her a couple of times. She goes, is she any good?
Okay.
I don't know. It's like, oh God. One time I was outside waiting to be introduced, and this lady comes running in. They had started the meetings with some announcements, and I was waiting outside. This lady comes in, because I'm late. I don't know anything about the speaker. I hope they're good. I said, oh yeah, me too. But it's so funny when people reach out to me. It's like, oh, reach out. So I'll give you my private email is ctruffo.
Oh my God, you are so sweet. Because what I don't want to stop you from doing that, but what I meant was like, where can people find you and work with you as well? But go for it.
BeAWealthyTherapist.net is the site. ctruffo@gmail.com. That's my personal email. You can reach out. One of the things that I just want to share as a don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't get your website domain name for 10 years and then not have the email address that goes with the renewal. Because I did Be a Wealthy Therapist for 10 years, and then I, renewed it for 10 years. At 10-year mark came, and they sent the renewal notice, because the credit card obviously had expired by then. They sent the renewal notice to email addresses that my consultant person, web person, and I did not have anymore. And we lost BeAWealthyTherapist.com. It went to auction. So 10 years of SEO, all of that was gone in a minute. Now I had great web people, so we were up somewhere within like 12 hours on beawealthytherapist.net. Somebody in Japan owns beawealthytherapist.com, and I refuse to buy it. Because they got it at auction, and they bought it because it had good SEO, good for them. They haven't done anything with it, but so I think they were going to try to sell it back to me, but I'm not buying it. So do your website for maybe 3 or 4 years and put on your calendar to always check. Make sure you're going back to doing that, because you don't want to lose your website domain name.
Yeah.
So yeah, beawealthytherapist.net. We're really looking for helping more group practice owners. My friend Joe and I run some groups. I do individual coaching on that. We actually have something called the Advanced Adding Clinicians group membership, as well as a class for people that are just starting group practices. So now that I'm 65, I'm kind of retired for helping brand new people start their practices. We have coach friends that, you other people that whoever wants to take them can take the brand new people. We're going to work with the people who have the group practices and are wanting to have more ease and more money there. And then we're my center. So.
And you're definitely who I send people to whenever they want to expand their practices, add clinicians, start a center. I'm like,
thank you.
Go to Casey. Yeah.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, I just want to thank you for what you do. Your podcast series is amazing. You're one of the best interviewers I've ever had the privilege of being interviewed by. So thank you for that. And I love it that your center was like a beta test for you. It really was. It's like, let's see how this, it just doesn't feel right for me. And then you go off and do the things that you want to do, coaching and whatever else you're doing. So my hat is off to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Casey. This was so generous and
bless your heart.
So many gems today. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, continued success to you and to everybody on that's listening. Let's make the world a better place, one person, one couple at a time, and put on your big girl and big boy panties and be business owners, whether you have a solo practice or a group practice. We need you.
Awesome. Love that. Thanks, Casey. Thanks for listening to Therapist Clubhouse. If you felt supported by this episode, please tell your best therapist friend about it. That's really the best way for us to help more therapists like you. Oh, and did you catch that Casey said she's going to offer us a free download of her book, From Clinician to Confident CEO? Yeah, so that's in the show notes. Go to coachingwithannie.com/podcast/63 to grab that. So again, that's coachingwithannie.com/podcast/63 for that download. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Yeah. So that was so funny. I emailed you saying like, you're my dream guest and I've had 42 people. And you're like, well, then why have you had 42 people? And I was like, because I couldn't ask you first. I had to show you it would be worth your while.